Oops. Welcome back. I hope you had an excellent weeding process and that many were pulled out way down at the roots. Yay. So this whole week I've been talking about, I have to admit, but my purpose of talking is to hopefully act as a channel and help my friends in whatever way that I'm capable of. And so it's been this, what do we rely upon and what sort of questions we ask and blah, blah, blah. And it's raised bigger and bigger questions with me because I'm always coming up with larger questions, it seems, which means that I ask them and that in meditation, I pray and seek answers and insights, especially ones that I haven't had before, because those are the most interesting ones, the epiphanies that I haven't had yet. So the question of this, what do we rely upon, has been rumbling in my head, and it brings up this age-old conundrum that philosophers have been asking forever, and that is, how much control do we really have? And if we're a super religious person and are always saying, I'm powerless and I have no control and thy will be done, it's always troubled me, as it has a lot of thinkers, that aren't we then just robots? We're just marionettes being moved around by something other than ourselves, something greater than ourselves, but something other than ourselves as well. Ourselves as we know our finite human form to be. Then on the other hand, we have great respect in the world for those finite selves who have great amounts of power and control and can move the world around and have a large influence and make a difference, and what they say goes, and we build monuments and statues to those people. Those are the people who have sloughed off this feeling that they're marionettes or puppets, and what they say goes. They declare it and it is. CEOs of corporations, heads of nation states, great artists, the list could go on and on. What's the appropriate ratio? Well, doesn't it sometimes seem that you do have a great deal of say, and your willpower really matters in situations in very real and authentic and genuine ways? Doesn't it seem sometimes, though, that we're very much powerless? Life's on us, and doesn't matter what we say. It's like a friend of mine used to say, when life's on us, the gorilla is done dancing when the gorilla is done, not when we're done. So it's this bizarre, wonderful, phenomenal, adventuresome, fantastical ratio between what we can and cannot control. I don't even begin to pretend to have the answer on it, but ideas are being fleshed out. And one of the ideas that I've been thinking about is that it's the model that there are two of us. There's our mortal coil, as Shakespeare called it, our human form that moves around in the world and has a certain skill set of faculties, instincts, capacities, and can definitely make choices and decisions and get things done. But then there's the spiritual part of us, the God part of us. If you're a spiritual person, you can relate to this model, and that is the part of us that was never born, will never die. We could call it soul. In Hinduism, we would call it Atman, the individualization of the infinite. All spiritual systems have a name for this compression or individualization of consciousness, of which we are all owners of. Now, from that place, there is great power. That's the part of us that's connected to God, love, source, being. That's the part of us that is God, love, source, being. It's so hard for the human mind to imagine that. It's sort of like standing in front of a light that's so bright, we must avert our gaze. It's too much to think of ourselves. It reminds us of what that comment that Nelson Mandela said in his inauguration that Marianne Williamson purloined from him. But it said, we're not most afraid of how small we are and how incapable and impotent we are. We're most afraid of how wonderful and strong and brilliant we are. it's not noble to play our small selves in the world. So it's this ratio between our big self and our small self that is really the dynamic, and it swells back and forth. Don't we sometimes swell or die or contract into the smaller version of ourselves? Don't we sometimes expand and open, and we get these glorious glimpses of the God within ourselves? They're one and the same, but they're not the same. Paradoxical, isn't it? So sometimes we're running the show, we're making the decisions, we're making the calls, and people snap to attention when we say what we say. Other times, it's as though no one's listening, and we close our eyes and we become quiet, and we revert and refer to this infinite sense of self. And from that place, we find the answers, the insights, the strength, the courage, the blessings, the love to go forward. It's a nice model, isn't it? And at any given moment in space-time, you're both at the same time. This is what happens when you read James Joyce, Ulysses. You begin to speak in iambic pentameter. But think of yourself as this swelling being when you're struggling, looking through a microscope too small. You can't see the big picture. And then you open out to the big picture and you can see the whole thing, and you get answers and insight. And then the fun of moving back in and looking at things in a more granular way. I have no idea where today's talk came from. I hope you might find it interesting, helpful, provocative, interesting. If you did, send me an email or a text and let me know what you thought. I'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll talk about all of this. Have a beautiful day.